I just enjoy like the birds and I just enjoy nature in general. Outside, you can do whatever you want. I suppose you can do whatever you want. You can do cartwheels or karate or climbing the trees.
It's fun getting away from inside and just being outside. We've been talking to older people about where they used to play in Kington and to children about where they play now.
Oh, I loved Kington. I thought Kington was the loveliest town in the whole world.
Oh, we didn't have anything like televisions in those days, and so you just got out and played.
I moved to Kington when I was 7 years old from Birmingham, so there's quite a contrast of places to play, because all of a sudden we lived in a house by a river with an old railway line that split the fields. The railway line is now Kington Bypass, but we used to play a lot in that field and in the river, and the old outbuildings, which were barns and pigsties and things. We'd make dens in them.
You could walk up through the town and you could speak to just about everybody you passed. You knew them all.
I'm going to show you lots of places you can play outside in Kington. There's Bradner Hill, there's Hargis Ridge, there's lots of places to play in Kington.
The Wreck was a popular place because you'd always meet other children up there and go off on an adventure somewhere.
This is the Wreck and this is where I play.
Where did you used to play?
Well, a group of us used to play ever such a lot in Kington Recreation Ground because it was very close to where I lived. Every year, Kington Show was put up in the Wreck. Well, when we were about your age, we used to help put up the show. We ran in and out of all the buildings and all the tents and generally got in everybody's way, but nobody seemed to worry. And the greatest thrill was if we were allowed to have a ride on one of the lorries. How we didn't all injure ourselves down there, I will never know.
Every September, big sheep sales were there, and that was something that we all the kids looked forward to. Off we used to go with our sticks. I don't know what we thought we were going to do. Poor old sheep. That was another big thing in the town.
So we interviewed some of the older people who lived in Kington, and they were telling us about the kind of activities they used to do at the recreation ground. So we tried to recreate some of those really. So like looking for nests. So we decided to build some nests as well, because that's always a popular thing. A lot of people have said that they used to dig clay up and use that for kind of crafty things.
I use sticks as the whiskers, and for the eyes I use little seeds, and for the ears I use little shells. We're going to be looking for birds' nests, and after we're going to make a bird's nest.
Well, with sticks and bark, we've been making boats and then tying them with string. We let them sail.
Mine floated at the start, but then it all started to sink.
The river comes up every single time you talk to people about playing in Kington, so making boats is always a very popular thing to do.
So we used to paddle about in the river. We used to make dams in the river. We used to try and catch fish. And if you turn down over some of the stones, you can find little creatures called bully heads under the stones.
Yes, we used to go up the Wreck and meet all the other lads and make dens there, and there was another river there which we used to tickle trout in. And I can remember with one of my friends playing, and he said, "Come on, Clarky, I've got a trout under here." And I've got one here as well. And as our hands moved down the trout, we touched fingers and we realised it was an eel. Oh! So we both leapt out of the river a bit quick and run off up the Wreck and didn't go back in there all day. Frightened to death of them eels, because they'd nip you, they would.
When I'm inside, I can't really play hide and seek
but when I'm outside I can because there's more hiding spaces.
We used to also like making dens, and there were two places we made dens. One was in the little wooded areas, which were called the plantations, and also there was an area of grass near where the zip wire is, which was usually kept quite long. But once a year in the summer it was cut for hay, and they didn't take all of the hay away. So the next day, if it was dry, we'd all be down there and we'd be picking up armfuls of dried grass and we'd make houses out of them. There were two enormous, very heavy old wooden seesaws. They probably wouldn't allow them today, they'd be too dangerous. And they were very heavy to lift up and down. And if you had two children to sit on one end and then a third child walked up the seesaw, which was by that time in the air, stood right on the very top, and you could look through the trees across the bus garage and you could see the town clock. And the town clock's got a very big face on it, and if you could tell the time, then you knew what time it was, and then you could tell everybody else that it was time to go home for your dinner.
Our thoughts were with this project was to try and reconnect but also revive memories, and the reconnection was with the younger people who often may look at landscape but not understand it. And the reconnection is with their parents, grandparents, with an older generation who have memories about that landscape. And putting those two together, we hoped that we would encourage younger people to look differently at the landscape, to relate it to their families, to revive those memories of particular places, particular features of the landscape.
This is Crooked Well Meadow.
I used to love playing on the old railway line. The actual railway lines had been taken away, but the sleepers were still there. So we would step along the sleepers the entire length, sometimes pick blackberries.
Where the old railway line used to go down through, occasionally it crossed the river, and there was no bridge there, but you could, if you leapt really well, jump to the middle one and then to the end one and off back to the other bank. And that was a game of dare. We used to try and jump that. Some kids would look at it and go, oh no, we're not going to do that. And right, once you got the hang of it, you could do it, because the blocks weren't very big, so if you over jumped, you'd slide off and fall in. So you had to get the spacing right. The other way of getting across was the old fence, which was a two-wire fence, but all the posts had rotted, so you'd have your hands on the top, your feet on the bottom, and you'd try and go across. But what happens when you get in the middle sometimes is you just go right round, and your head's in the water and your feet are in the air on the other end of the wire, and then you've got to try and get back up again, or you let go and crawl through the river.
It's not just parks that are good to play in. I like coming down to Hatton Gardens to play in the trees and ride my bike.
Kington's landscape is, well, firstly, it's a very beautiful landscape. It's an interesting and varied landscape. It's a border landscape, which is interesting in itself historically. It can be both dramatic and very gentle. It is that contrast. People flock to the Yorkshire Dales National Park or the Lake District or whatever. They may not think about coming to Herefordshire, but when they do come and they explore that landscape, they appreciate it because it is virtually untouched.
Roller skating down the high street, which we could do then because there weren't so many cars. Kington was quite busy, mind. It wasn't, deserted, but you could still get away with skating down the high street. I wouldn't want to do it now.
If we had snow on the ground, in the winter. We could play on the wreck, that was fine, but we also went sledging. And just behind where Lady Hawkins School is now, there is a bank. It's now got houses built along it. But a long, long time ago, about 60 years ago, there was just grass on it. And it was brilliant for sledging. And the big school fields weren't there then. They were big fields that cows and sheep used. And you could walk up to the top, take your sledge, and then sledge all the way down to the bottom. And if you got a really fast sledge, you would be able to go through, over the ditch and through the old tree trunks into the next field.
There used to be a field fairly close to where I lived, and there was one poor old horse in there, and he was subject to everybody having to jump on his back. And we used to often go down into that field and all try and get a ride. And I remember on this one particular time, this poor old horse, he was pretty ancient, and we didn't have a saddle or anything, and I managed to get on the horse as he went down a slope like that, and you had nothing to hang on to, only his mane, and hanging on, and I went straight over the top.
We're at Birch's Farm, and we've brought a group of children up to look at the landscape. Well, there probably is people walking on the hills. Can anyone see on top of Hargis Ridge the monkey puzzle trees?
Yeah, I was looking straight at them.
Well, here is a binocular, pair of binoculars, because we were looking at different hills, and here is a compass to see what direction those mountains were in.
We were looking at all different kinds of hills and what they have on them and stuff, see if we could see any people on the golf course and stuff like that.
There was lots of places to play. Bradner Hill was right behind our house, and my brother and myself would go up there and collect all the lost golf balls, take them back to the place, and we get some pocket money for sweets and things. It was brilliant.
And poke it in where you think Kington is and where you think Lionswell is.
We had playing a game, and we were trying to find where we live, and we had the big sticks and putting them.
So where is Kington actually is in the fire?
The landscape around Kington hasn't changed very much at all, but Kington itself has changed a lot in that there's a lot more houses, which of course people have to have somewhere to live, but I am always sad to see houses built on the places that I used to play when I was a child.
This is Kington Park.
Yeah, we've been having a treasure hunt, so there's lots of pictures that they needed to find around, and they've got words that they have to find all the pictures and then match the words up. So we started by having a campfire, and marshmallows are always the biggest hit, so we had to start with that. And then we decided to make some popcorn as well. There's a boy who's very, very keen on cooking, so we just kind of went with it really today.
When I was a kid, I just used to roam and feel quite free to do that. And I think children now perhaps are more constrained. They play closer to home, quite often in the home. It would be great if we could encourage children and their parents to get out beyond the home and into the countryside, just to get that sense of freedom and exploration.
It's just fun getting away from inside and just being outside.
How does it make you feel?
Well, it's kind of happy. I feel happy outside here.
How does it make you feel when you've been playing outside?
Happy.
And why do you like playing outside?
Because it's fun. I hear the birds and stuff.
It makes me feel happy.
What about you?
Happy.
Hope this has given you some good ideas. What are you waiting for? Go play!
A bit like looking at a swimming pool. Dive in and have fun in it. Don't just look at it and think it looks pretty. And that's what we hope people will do, to actually embrace the landscape that they're living in.